Just after midnight on June 13, 2025, the quiet of the Negev desert was shattered as Nevatim Air Base erupted into a frenzy of activity. F-35I Adir stealth fighters and F-15I Ra'am Strike Eagles, the pride of the Israeli Air Force, roared into the night sky, their afterburners blazing like comets. The ground crews moved with practiced urgency, fueling and arming the jets for a mission that had been rehearsed countless times, but never before attempted for real. The tension was palpable, every movement charged with the knowledge that history was about to be made. This was no drill. Operation Rising Lion had officially begun. The code name, whispered in secrecy for months, now blazed across command center screens and briefing documents. Every soldier, pilot, and officer knew the stakes. The future of the region and perhaps the world hung in the balance. Deep beneath Tel Aviv, in a fortified underground command center, Israel's top military and political leaders gathered. Surrounded by glowing digital maps, live drone feeds, and satellite imagery, they watched as years of meticulous planning and intelligence work finally became reality. The air was thick with anticipation and anxiety, as every decision made in that room could alter the course of history. The decision to launch was a desperate gamble, made only after the latest intelligence confirmed their worst fears. Iran was just weeks away from assembling a nuclear weapon. The risk of waiting any longer was deemed too great. Maps were spread across tables, red circles marking high-value targets, while classified documents and warning indicators flashed urgent alerts. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on every leader present. In the cockpits, Israeli pilots flew at dangerously low altitudes, skimming the desert floor to avoid detection. Their hands moved swiftly over controls, activating advanced radar jamming equipment designed to blind enemy sensors. Each pilot was acutely aware of the risks. One mistake could mean disaster not just for themselves, but for the entire mission. Yet, their resolve was unshakable, driven by a sense of duty and the knowledge that the fate of their nation rested on their shoulders. Their mission was clear and perilous: penetrate deep into hostile Iranian airspace, undetected, and strike at the very heart of Iran's nuclear ambitions. Animated maps traced their flight paths, weaving through mountain ranges and evading radar coverage. Inside the cockpits, target screens glowed with coordinates of heavily fortified nuclear sites, each one representing a potential turning point in the conflict. Meanwhile, across the Middle East, cities slept under a blanket of darkness, unaware of the storm brewing above. In Israel, families huddled in their homes hoping for peace but bracing for the unknown. In Iran, the night was calm, until the distant rumble of jets signaled that everything was about to change. As Israeli jets crossed the border into Iranian airspace, the silence was shattered by the wail of air defense sirens across western Iran. Panic rippled through cities as civilians scrambled for shelter, realizing that a new and dangerous chapter was unfolding before their eyes. Iran's formidable air defenses sprang to life. Missile batteries activated, radar screens lit up with unidentified contacts, and anti-aircraft missiles streaked into the night sky. The element of surprise, so carefully guarded, was now being put to the ultimate test against a determined and well-prepared adversary. Operation Rising Lion was no longer just a plan on paper. It had become a supersonic reality, unfolding at breathtaking speed. News outlets scrambled to break the story as the world's attention shifted to the skies over the Middle East. In those tense moments, the fate of the Middle East and perhaps the world rested in the hands of the pilots flying through the darkness. Their faces, illuminated by the glow of cockpit instruments, betrayed a mix of determination and fear. Every second counted, every decision could mean life or death. The countdown to chaos had begun. As the world held its breath, the opening act of Operation Rising Lion was underway, setting the stage for a conflict that would shape the destiny of nations. Operation Rising Lion's goal was clear: dismantle Iran's nuclear program before it could reach a point of no return. For years, intelligence agencies had tracked the rapid progress of Iran's nuclear ambitions, raising alarms across the globe. The stakes were nothing less than the balance of power in the Middle East, and the threat of nuclear proliferation loomed large. The operation also aimed to cripple Iran's military infrastructure, targeting the backbone of its defense and offensive capabilities. By striking at the heart of Iran's military power, the mission sought to prevent any swift retaliation, and to send a clear message to adversaries and allies alike. For Israeli leaders, this was not just a military maneuver, it was a preemptive act of survival. The threat was existential, and the decision to strike was made with heavy hearts but unwavering resolve. They believed that waiting any longer could mean facing a nuclear-armed adversary on their doorstep. Hundreds of targets were meticulously selected: nuclear sites, missile factories, IRGC command centers, and critical communication hubs. Each target was chosen for its strategic value, with the goal of maximizing disruption and minimizing Iran's ability to recover quickly. Facilities like Fordow and Natanz, buried deep underground or shielded by layers of concrete and steel, topped the list. These sites represented the core of Iran's nuclear capabilities, and neutralizing them was essential to halting the program's progress. The ultimate aim was to set Iran's nuclear ambitions back by years, if not decades. By destroying key infrastructure and removing critical materials, the operation hoped to erase years of scientific and technological advancement in a matter of hours. Leadership decapitation was also considered, a bold move to eliminate key IRGC and political figures. The goal was to sow chaos and confusion within Iran's command structure, making it harder for the regime to coordinate a response or rebuild quickly. The risks were enormous. A miscalculation could ignite a regional war, draw in global powers, and unleash waves of retaliation. But so were the stakes. Allowing Iran to go nuclear could change the face of the Middle East forever. Israel had lost faith in international diplomacy. Years of negotiations and broken promises had led to a dead end. With the world divided and time running out, Israel decided to act alone, shouldering the burden of regional security. This was a bold declaration. Israel would not wait for permission to defend itself. The world watched as Israeli jets roared into the night, signaling a new chapter in the ongoing struggle for security and survival. The operation was designed to shatter Iran's military power and its nuclear dream in one decisive blow. Every explosion, every destroyed facility was a message. The pursuit of nuclear weapons would come at an unbearable cost. As the dust settled, the future of the region now hung in the balance. The world held its breath, uncertain of what would come next, as the echoes of Operation Rising Lion reverberated across the Middle East. The first wave was a masterclass in stealth and electronic warfare, unfolding under the cover of darkness. As the world watched in suspense, a carefully coordinated aerial armada swept toward Iranian airspace, their presence nearly undetectable. Every move was calculated, every second counted, and the element of surprise was absolute. At the forefront, the F-35 Ayadirs led the charge, their advanced stealth technology allowing them to slip past early warning systems. These jets weren't just flying, they were orchestrating a symphony of disruption, punching holes in Iran's air defense network and paving the way for the rest of the strike force. Supporting them, Gulfstream G550S unleashed powerful electronic jamming, scrambling Iranian radars and communications. Iranian defenders found their screens filled with static, their commands lost in a sea of interference. For a critical window, they were effectively blinded, unable to coordinate or respond. With defenses neutralized, precision munitions rained down on early warning radars and missile batteries. Each strike was meticulously planned, targeting the backbone of Iran's air defense infrastructure and leaving little room for recovery. Russian-made S-300S and Iran's own Bavar 373 systems, once considered formidable, were destroyed before they could even lock onto a target. Flames and smoke marked the end of these high-tech guardians, their threat eliminated in minutes. The primary objective was clear: open wide corridors for incoming bombers and ensure the Iranian Air Force stayed grounded. Runway lights flickered out and fighter jets sat helpless, unable to take off or mount a defense. F-15Is and F-16Is followed up, unleashing a barrage on airbases. Runways were cratered, hangars obliterated, and fuel depots set ablaze, further crippling Iran's ability to launch a counterattack. Within less than an hour, Iran's once integrated air defense grid was plunged into darkness. Command centers lost power, radar stations went silent, and the entire network was rendered inoperative. The sheer speed and precision of the assault revealed a massive technological gap. Israeli pilots operated with near impunity, their advanced systems outclassing anything Iran could muster. Even before the main targets were engaged, Iran's ability to defend itself was crippled. Confusion and chaos reigned as commanders struggled to make sense of the onslaught. By dawn, the path was clear for the next, more destructive waves. The airspace over Iran was now uncontested, and bombers prepared for their next sorties with little fear of resistance. The Iranian military was left shocked and disoriented, their confidence shattered by the overwhelming force and speed of the attack. Officers scrambled for answers, but the damage was already done. In the aftermath, the skies over Iran belonged to Israel. The balance of power had shifted, and the world was left to wonder what would come next. With air defenses down, the second wave struck Iran's nuclear core. F-15 IROMs dropped GBU-28 bunker busters on Fordow, built deep inside a mountain. Bombs penetrated rock and concrete, collapsing tunnels and destroying centrifuges. The goal entombed Fordow, making it impossible to rebuild. Simultaneously, Natanz was hit with standoff missiles, targeting enrichment halls and power substations. Fireballs lit the desert as decades of nuclear work were reduced to rubble. The Arak heavy water reactor was disabled with pinpoint strikes, avoiding a radiological disaster. In less than an hour, Iran's nuclear ambitions suffered catastrophic damage. The second wave delivered a devastating blow to Iran's nuclear program. The heart of Iran's nuclear effort was left in ruins. As nuclear sites burned, the third wave targeted Iran's leadership. Using real-time intelligence, Israeli jets struck IRGC command bunkers and secure compounds in Tehran. Reports suggested high-ranking generals, including the head of Iran's missile program, may have been killed. Government compounds used by top political leaders were also hit, sowing chaos among the elite. The message, nowhere was safe. The psychological impact was immense. Israel's reach was undeniable. Iran imposed a media blackout, fueling speculation about the fate of its leaders. The regime's command structure was thrown into disarray. The next phase was covert. Mossad's shadow war went into overdrive. As airstrikes continued, Mossad and local dissidents sabotaged power grids and communication lines, plunging Iran into confusion. Cyber attacks crippled state media and government websites, spreading panic and disinformation. Fake messages warned citizens to avoid military sites and blamed the regime for the war. The goal: erode public trust and paralyze Iran's response. This blend of air power, sabotage and psychological warfare was devastating. The regime's grip on power was shaken from within. The chaos would outlast the airstrikes. Iran's retaliation was swift and furious. Hundreds of Shahed drones launched from Iran and its proxies targeted Israeli bases and cities. Israel's Iron Dome, David's Sling and Arrow systems intercepted most, but some drones broke through, causing damage and injuries. The attack was designed to overwhelm defenses and instill fear. Iran's leaders vowed a crushing response, threatening ballistic missile strikes on Israeli cities. The specter of a massive missile barrage loomed, sending Israelis to bomb shelters. This was now a direct state-on-state war. Iran's drone attack proved it could still strike back. The missile threats were strategic blackmail. Any further Israeli attacks could trigger devastating retaliation. The region braced for escalation. The first exchange had begun, but the worst could be yet to come. The Middle East held its breath. Israel declared Operation Rising Lion was just the beginning of a sustained campaign. The Prime Minister vowed to continue until Iran's nuclear threat was eliminated. This marked a shift to a long, grinding conflict, a war of attrition. Over 200 aircraft struck with advanced standoff weapons, minimizing risk to pilots. Technology gave Israel an edge, but planners knew this would be a protracted struggle. The strategy prevented Iran from rebuilding with ongoing strikes and sabotage. Mossad would continue targeting supply chains and key personnel. The goal: keep Iran under permanent pressure. This was no border skirmish. It was a direct confrontation with a regional power. The outcome was uncertain, but the path to peace was gone. As dawn broke, the consequences of Operation Rising Lion became clear. The world now faced the risk of a full-scale regional war. Iran's next move, possibly a ballistic missile barrage, could trigger devastating escalation. Hezbollah's arsenal on Israel's northern border threatened a second front. The US faced pressure to support Israel, while Russia and China watched closely. Oil prices soared and the threat to the Strait of Hormuz rattled global markets. The conflict was no longer regional, it was global with economic and security implications. The fragile status